Hey, what's up everybody? Bdf coming at you with another video. Alright, so feel pretty good just walking around. Figured I'd get out after doing all the artwork that I was going to do with the playlist that I made. Playlist is one of the best ones. I think that might have been the best one I made this year. Playlist 412, made about 2 days ago at random after meditating, and the music just came together. It sound very blended well. Music that just sounded like it was meant to be played together, and so I really enjoyed the heck out of that. That was one of my very best ones of the modern era. I've done what, 823 or something like that at this point. So to say it's my greatest one is foolish. But what I can say is it's definitely my favorite of the ones that I've made over the last year or so. So that's what I can say. It really blended well together. So yeah, man, made the art for that. Thought the art was pretty decent for it too. I was pleased with the work. I only did a couple pieces because one piece I decided to spend a whole lot of time on. It's a piece that I just made that all I did was just take different colors and put C in different angles all over the damn thing. The letter C, that's it. And it came out to look pretty decent, but it took almost an hour to do that one piece. So I only did about 3 or 4 pieces in total, coupled with the CD art. But it all came together to be a good session of art. So since it's so early, man, it's barely about 2:30, if that. Figured I'd get out and enjoy this beautiful day. It's got a lot of fantastic weather that we're dealing with right now, and so far be it for me to waste away in that room, especially since I was getting a little bit of a headache looking down for too long. So figured I'd just get out and walk around. I haven't done this the last couple times I've been over here for whatever reason. I just haven't decided to do any walking, but today I changed my mind. I figured I'd handle that way and allow for, you know, a little exercise. I feel a little sore. I think it's from all the stuff that I've been doing. I guess it's just a natural soreness, a little tired, but I'm not letting it keep me in the house today. I figured I'd feel better if I got out anyway, so that's what I'm doing. But everything went smoothly as far as getting in the room. Of course, you guys can see, took an Uber. Uber was great, kind of playing some music, and it was quiet in there, nothing too serious. And got out of there on time, out of the other room, got my deposit, no problem. And so everything worked out real smooth. Very thankful for that. Everything's already secure so that I can pay for tomorrow. That's already in place. So all I got to do is just have some good fortune with them having a room available tomorrow. And everything else is pretty much squared away. So, you know, this has been smooth so far. I trust that the Lord will smooth it out even further. And very thankful for all of that and all the help that I've been receiving from my uncle all this time, man. Definitely appreciate it. And you know, I'm just moving along, you know, paying attention and to the meditation that the Lord has put into my heart. And he said this is an era where he wanted to work on me throughout the course of this season. And I told you guys that. He said, you know, more or less came out way in meditation was saying, let me work on you. And yesterday it was a different concept came into my mind. Last night it was let things go. If it ain't a part of the Lord's script, to let it go. And specifically what he's talking about is insecurities, negativity, doubt, anything of that nature. Let all of that go. If it ain't, you know, the Lord was essentially saying, it was the same thing that I mentioned in my video a couple days ago at random, is that the Lord is in control of all of this. Is his script. He's writing the story. So if he's writing the story, then a lot of what it is that we have in our mind, particularly stuff that's negative, he ain't put that in the script. A lot of that is the enemy trying to knock us off course. So what we need to do, of course, is remind ourselves who's writing the story. And if you're making him happy, then he's going to make it all work out. Now, granted, there are some things, some challenges, you know, certain natural occurrences that don't have nothing to do with us that are going to affect us. You know what I mean? Things that happen in other people's lives, you know, what have you. But the strength that you need, you're going to find from connecting with him. The strength that you need is going to come from understanding before you even start any conversation or thought or anything, is that he's writing the script on your life. And that if it ain't a part of the script, it ain't got no business in your heart or in your mind. Now, granted, none of us are fortune tellers, but that's what coming to God, I guess, is supposed to make it make sense in regards to. It makes sense if he's telling you, hey, things are going to work out, that you believe him because he's writing the script to your life. So let that script be what guides you in understanding that the director of this thing is looking for you to apply faith that things are going to work out, to coerce yourself toward the best possible outcome by having the best attitude and ultimately staying focused, not letting things that are off script, negative things, knock you off script, knock you off your focus, knock you off your path. A lot of times it's that negative energy and those negative thoughts that ultimately coerce us into negative outcomes. God didn't have none of that a part of the script. So that's essentially what he's saying to me. A lot of the things that make come your way mentally that ain't positive, things that have already went against what God has promised you, obviously it ain't part of the script. It's time to let them go. And so that's what the Lord was essentially putting in my heart. Like, certain things weren't part of the script. We're going to try to go a certain route, but maybe the other party didn't run with what they were supposed to do. Maybe they went off script. And so the Lord didn't let that happen. Whatever it was, whatever the circumstance was, it wasn't working on the other side of things. Maybe you did what you were supposed to do, but things didn't work out on the other end. So it's off script. You let it go. And given the fact that we don't know what comes with what we ask for, a lot of times it makes most sense to just let go of a lot of what it is that we're married to in regards to outcomes, which is something I've been talking about a lot over the last year or so. Not being married to outcomes. Letting God work out circumstances that have to do with things outside of my control. I need to focus on the journey I'm on, the task within the journey, the circumstances that are within my control. I need to stay focused on and keeping a good attitude so that I can approach those circumstances and those tasks the right way. You know, it's the negative vibes that ultimately knock us off course, as already said. So stay on script. Don't allow those things to enter your mind or coerce your course of action, and allow your approach to be from a positive place. So that's what came to mind last night. We're letting things go. We following the script that the Lord has for us. We're not on the path to welcoming negativity or defeatist thoughts into our heart and our mind. If the Lord wants us to face some negativity, or if he wants us to face some things that are not favorable to us, rather, then he will also approach us in a certain way that allows for us to brace ourselves or give us the strength for which comes from those circumstances. Every dark thing, every difficult thing I've ever been through forged a certain seriousness and a certain maturity and a certain strength and a certain trust in God that was required in order to get through it, to lean on him and trust him. Every bad thing I've ever been through was worth it. You know, and so most of those things that I was I was struggling with were not things that I anticipated. They were not things that I thought were coming. It's the negative things that were in my head that often sometimes coerced me into unnecessary struggles, or made it so that I didn't approach things the right way, made it so that I didn't want to see certain things through that I was supposed to see through on the script that the Lord had written for my life. Maybe I took some derailment paths because of different approaches that were not on script. He didn't write that into my equation, but I believed it so and willed it so. And most of the time, I was worse off for it. So this is why I come to you with this understanding, like, we're staying on script, we're letting things go, we're not approaching things the wrong way. If something bad is about to come, the Lord will give us the strength to get through it. If something difficult's on the way, if a heartache is going on and somebody goes off script in their life and it affects ours, we're going to be stronger for it But anticipating those things often is empty, because a lot of times the things that you most are anticipating in regards to negativity isn't on the script or the course of your life, unless you're willing to sow. So don't, you know what I mean? That's really what I've been told, what's came my way and what I'm sharing with y'all. Don't. I'm not willing bad things into my life. If I have to deal with it, then I'm going to approach it with a certain level of trust in God and praise and, you know, meditation. And a lot of times the worst things in my life that I've dealt with, the Lord has found a way to make me poised throughout the course of it. And the things we anticipate that ultimately are not coming, that are so negative, we often don't see any poise. We often don't see any hope. Our imagination allows us to think that things are going to be so bleak and that we're going to be so horrible because of it. But throughout the course of my life, that's not how the worst of my times have actually been. It's not how he actually, you know, writes out the script of my difficulties. It usually comes with people helping me out. It usually comes with me approaching it with a certain poise, not crumbling, becoming more focused afterward. It's when I go away from script that I end up finding myself in deep, dark depression, feeling hopeless and despair. A lot of that comes with the approach of negativity and a welcoming, a certain willing of negative things into your life. You're not going to have those energies attached to the actual difficulties of your life. A lot of times you're going to be stronger than the people around you in a lot of situations if you're handling it with a certain faith and a certain positive approach, for which when you're forced into difficulty, a lot of times you're going to have to. So it stands to reason why we won't allow for such negative thoughts to be understood as true in our lives for things that we ultimately have no evidence of. But because we're so pessimistic in a lot of ways that we think, we just welcome these negative things into our lives. Maybe you've had some hard times in the past that you didn't handle the right way, and so you have some traumas that you need to work through and make it so that you don't feel like you're worthy of good things, or that good things are never coming your way, even if you believe yourself worthy. It's easier to just believe things are going to be bad because difficulties in the past hit so hard for you that you would just rather not anticipate good things coming your way, because quite honestly, your history has shown you that they don't very often. But your approach to your struggles have to have some belief that goodness could be possible before it actually is. And maybe the enemy has worked on you in such a way that allows for you to believe that that's not possible, but you got to let God work on you too. That's what he's taught me. You got to allow him to work on you too. And then he's done his number. Now watch what the Lord gonna do. Maybe you have a long history of taking losses. Maybe it's time for you to win though. But you can't let your negative approach, carrying old baggage into new days, coerce you into avoiding the blessings that you are now due. You can't let the enemy have you falling off a cliff right before the greatest thing happens in your life, or the change of course for you to start having a string of good favor come into your life. And so that's what I'm here to share with you all. A lot of us are so caught up in the past and what has already happened in our lives and how we always struggled with certain things as we perceive it, so that we will continue to welcome negativity. And what we often don't see a lot of times when looking at ourselves is how we coerce those things into our lives, never changing our course of approach, so that we never actually identify that that approach could be better, and it may welcome better things into your life. And we've always been negative. Negative things have always come with that. You got to try something different in order to know that something different could be possible in regards to your actions coercing you toward better outcomes. You know, it's no different than anything else you never try. How do you know that you don't look good in the color green if you never wear it? Maybe you anticipate what it looks like in your head, in your mind's eye, but until you put it on, you don't actually get the fullness of what it looks like on you. You don't know if you're gonna like that type of food, and you never try it. But it's that we believe we understand ourselves so well that often coerces us into spaces where we don't know that we could possibly like something that we ultimately don't think we would, or that we could ultimately go well or look good in something that we ultimately have never worn. It requires us to go out on a limb and believe that it's worth trying. And so too isn't a positive approach when you've suffered so much. But a positive approach that has to do with you connecting with a living God will connect you to the positivity necessary to overcome the fog that tells you things are going to continue to be worse, while the Lord is telling you to keep believing. It requires that relationship to help you keep that positive energy, keep that positive outlook when things don't necessarily look clear in terms of positivity. Maybe you see a long uphill battle or uphill road to where you're trying to go. And maybe you feel weary already because you've been on a long road and it didn't lead nowhere good. That requires a relationship with God for you to, in order to have that faith that things can get better, that you have the second wind to keep pushing forward up that hill. It's hard to convince yourself of anything really positive without the belief that someone or something can coerce you through the path of allowing for you to receive it or catch it. That's why I have a hard time knowing what to say to people who don't believe in God. Because it becomes a situation where you're looking at evidence. And evidence sometimes lies to you about the future. A pattern can be broken, especially with a living God in place. You might have never had a certain thing come your way, and then it does. And so a lot of us don't think that that's possible. A lot of us believe that happenstance creates all outcomes. That's not true. And that lack of truth sometimes coerces us to the worst possible outcomes. Or can sometimes have us missing out on our blessing because we don't believe such a thing is possible. So we take a road we shouldn't take to secure what it is that we believe needs to be secured in order for us to embrace the most negative of outcomes, or to avoid the most negative of outcomes. And down that path can sometimes be the worst possible outcome. That's the mistake a lot of people make, because they're lacking in faith. They're leaning into their negative instincts, and then from there they're trying to prevent the outcomes that they believe are true. So they're going to do the worst things. They're going to do horrible things to others, horrible things that don't look good for the outlook of the long term of their existence and the long term of what will be possible when things change in their own lives. For example, you don't care about taking chances right now, but you don't know that you're going to be a father 3 years from now, and the mistakes that you made are going to affect that child's life, and you're not going to even feel the same way later on about things. You're not going to be in that same desperate space that you are right now later on, but you are going to need to be around for that child, and the chances you're taking right now are going to leave you at risk or pull you away from that kid effectively. Like, these are things that it requires a relationship with God to help you understand, hey, yo, no. Based on what it is that you're going to be dealing with tomorrow, you don't want to go down this path today. And without the presence of a relationship with God, I can assure you, you ain't got no way of being able to anticipate that effectively. But with that relationship, he will nudge you in the directions that allow for you to understand what your wisest path is. And then furthermore, instill in you a certain seriousness today that would allow for you to be appreciative of the choices you made for tomorrow, when that day come around. And that's especially important for young people who tend to think they behold the world but don't actually know where they at in the world. I think they know everything, but there's so much to learn that'll help them make better decisions. That cockiness trapped within a mind that is devoid of things that are needed in order to maneuver within the world around them properly can leave them in spaces where they get their lives cut down early, or end up in circumstances that are lasting negatively and create problems for them over the course of their entire lives. A young person's relationship with God is extremely important. Because there are a lot of mistakes that we're going to make just off of the naivete of having not been here very long. But that we're fast in our thinking, that we're influential in the people around us, so that we've seen as much as we have, and our limited scope will allow us to believe that we know so much, that we behold the world properly, that we know where we're at, we know where we're going, we know why we're here, we know what's next. These thoughts fail us, and it requires a relationship with God to force us away from circumstances that are meant to take advantage of that naivete, take advantage of that not know-how, so to speak, take advantage of our cockiness within that space of not knowing, but still believing we know. It's important that we teach our children how to have a connection with God that spans beyond things that ultimately they need to be a part of in order to have it. A lot of people don't believe they can have a relationship with God unless they're in a fellowship situation, church, Bible study, things like that. It's incumbent upon you to have that relationship if those things are not present, because they may not always be present. But your need to rely upon a living God and relationship with a living God is going to follow you regardless of what's available to you. A lot of people believe in God, but only think that God is going to help them if they find themselves in those spaces. But the reality is God is with you always, so long as you are looking toward him. He can always connect with you, but you got to have that relationship in place in order to believe that he can, so that you can do your part on this end, because he's going to always do his part on the other end, just as we described earlier in regards to human beings. You might have did your part on the script, but somebody else may have went off script. Well, the same goes to the relationship with God too. He gonna be on script. Are we? So that relationship needs to come in a meditative space, in my opinion. You may be in a great church. You may not even have that church next year. Something may happen. You may have a great Bible study program, but maybe that program is going to dissipate and maybe go somewhere. Are you going to be able to, within your space, connect with the living God, discipline yourself to read your Bible or your Quran or what have you, without the presence of other people nudging you toward that? That's what we need to be working on. Maybe we don't have an access to a Bible for whatever reason. You still got to be able to go into yourself and connect with the living God. And it's the practice of believing that you can do that without the presence of everybody else that I think is so important for all of us. Your prayer partner might not be there, but your connection to God is already it's inside of you, so long as you're practicing that faith. As I always say, faith is a practice. It's not just a belief that you just have in your head and then just move on and just think he's going to catch you, and every time something bad come around, then you come around to God and praying. So a lot of people have that relationship with God, and it's no wonder they end up being off his timing. They end up finding themselves coercing down the wrong paths, believing the wrong things, and can't shake the negativity that comes into their heads. It's because they only come to God when things are absolutely horrible for them. And the first thing they thinking about is a selfish need when it's time to address him. Now, he can do great things with your prayers no matter what you're praying for. Don't get it twisted. But the practice to be in a better person starts with the practice of believing in something greater than yourself. And then in believing in something greater than yourself, practicing the understanding of how to submit to that thing that is God will allow you the understanding and the comfort of being able to turn to him when you don't have the things that ultimately a lot of people believe they need in order to connect with him. That connection should be in your heart already. It should be in your practice every day. That's why I believe in praying in the shower and meditating at night before I go to bed. It's because of practice that comes with connecting with the living God every day, twice a day, 3 times a day. Whether the Bible's next to me, whether the Bible study's there, whether the church is down the street, whether I can get to it or not. I can be in Tibet somewhere where nobody around me knows my relationship with God and still have a connection with God because of it. Because of those practices that already worked into my everyday equation. So that's what I encourage you all to see the fruit in working and establishing in yourself. Because you best believe the devil's going to be having you practicing negative thoughts every day. He's going to be posting all types of bad chants into your heart by way of the music you listen to all the time. He's going to be posting the wrong things into your situation, regardless of whether you have a relationship with God or not, because it's an evil world and he's constantly pumping his nonsense from every direction. So that we have a offsetting connection with the living God that we work into practice every day is significantly more important than we're actually taught in this world. We have 6 days of living in the evil world where all of its propaganda and all of its intentions and all of its negativity and lack of faith and self-exhaustion and all these different things that come our way in the world pulse into our hearts, pulse into our eardrums, training our minds effectively in how to be less than what the Lord wants you to be. And you think one day in church of every Sunday is going to be enough to offset that? Not realistically. It's agreed upon, but it isn't ultimately effective in weighing over saturating yourself with the antithesis to what the world is going to throw at you. Not really. I mean, God can do something with anything. Don't get it twisted. But man, in order to do his part, in order to take care of what needs to be done on your side, it's going to require a bit more effort than just 1 day a week, 2 hours a week. And then going back to what it is what we ultimately do. No wonder so many people find themselves agreeing that the world is hard for them, because very few people put into practice their part in making sure that relationship with God is intact. They agree to come to God on a Sunday, or they agree to go to God when things are most difficult, and that's it. That's the equivalent to brushing your teeth once a week and expecting not to have cavities in your face. It's not realistic. That's not how this actually works. You're going to do 1 crunch a month and expect to have a 6-pack. Good luck with that. It's not how that actually works. And that relationship with God needs to be in place. Just like your relationship with the discipline to work out has to be in place no matter where you at. A lot of people only can work out if they got a gym somewhere near them. And they only go to the gym if they have their car. And they only get in their car if they have enough to get, gas to get where they're going. It's like, there's too many contingencies on things that must remain so that your health can be where it needs to be. You got to know how to work out at home. You got to know how to get the most out of yourself every day so that you can keep your health where it needs to be. If all these things are not in place, lined up just right, you're just not going to have it. You're just not going to work out. You're just not going to take care of your health. So too is the understanding that you need to do the same with the Lord. And have your health with him, and your practice with him, and your exercise with him strong, regardless of whether or not the things that help you make that happen are in place or not. I'm going to tell people right now, I ain't been to a church in a long time. My uncle really wants me to go to church. And I really believe that honoring him for what he's doing for me is important. But a lot of these churches, I don't have access to. Maybe the church might have some access to allow me a ride to and from. Maybe there are other things within this that I may be able to discover if I go down there and just figure it out. Go down there and start meeting and greeting. So there's a lot of things that can be fruitful for me finding a church and going there every Sunday. But what I know about myself is that I've already had a relationship with God that spans beyond that conversation in a church. And I'm talking to God 2 and 3 times a day. I don't necessarily need to be in a church in order to have that relationship. Just like I don't necessarily need to be at a gym in order to work out. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to get the best workout in the gym, because I will. That doesn't mean I'm not going to get the best fellowship or the best understanding of the word from a church, because I will. But for a person who works out all the time, it's not like I need a gym membership. Now, I've worked into the equation the workout process that allows for me to maintain my health to the best of my ability without the presence of needing a gym membership, paying anybody, or nothing. Now, if I didn't have any workout habits, I would probably need to go to a gym and get me a trainer and somebody can help me work those habits into place. So too needs for those who don't follow the Lord independently. We'll need a church and some fellowship and somebody to help them learn how to connect with God, teach them how to pray. But make no mistake about it, the goal is to not need those things. The goal is to not need those things. The goal is to have those practices in place within your own fellowship. Reading my Bible and my devotional every morning. Saying my prayers in the shower every time I get in there. Having my meditative space at night before I go to sleep. This is where I really find that connection with God. He connecting with me all day long. Giving me concepts that help me with my individual walk without a single soul having a conversation with me at all. That's what you strive for, in my opinion. Based on what it is I've learned over the last 40 years, that's what you need. That's what everybody needs. And a lot of times, people go to church and think they don't need the other side of it, the independent practice. People go to the gym and don't think they need to work out or know how to work out consistently at home. They fall on those crutches, so to speak. Doing the bare minimum instead of understanding the fruit and pouring more of yourself into it than what is ultimately agreed upon in society. Go to church once every week. Bible study maybe on Tuesday. And you subject yourself to the world all them other days. You go to church and you start thinking about people. Got to get along with them. I gotta get involved with them. I gotta make sure that they see me as what I need to be. I gotta do this and do that. I ain't interested in all that. If I want to do all that, I'll join something else that involves human beings, people. And join a gang. You know what I'm saying? Join a pool club or something. If I want to be around a bunch of people on some social stuff, I don't need to join that to that degree. And, you know, in order to have a relationship with God, that's not what I need. What I need is to be able to have that independent practice on my own. So that if I'm in whatever circumstances, my church is with me. Church is in my heart. I am the church. You know, in respect to those who can't read, maybe you can't, you know, maybe not be literate. So it's incumbent upon you to have somebody help you with what's in that Bible or in that Quran or what have you, or in that Torah or what have you. Maybe you know, there's a lot of people out there who may not be privy to the ability to move about freely. This isn't for them. I'm not speaking from a perspective of somebody who can't do for self. But even if I lose my ability to do for self, the practice of being able to connect with a living God doesn't require a whole lot. Make no mistake about it. It don't require a whole lot. I ain't got to be able to run around the block 100 times to connect with God. But I understand just the same that there are people out there who are going to need some help with that. And for you, help is what you need. And your relationship with God will help you understand how to get it and how to keep it. And how to be it for somebody else. So that's what I wanted to say, man. I want people to understand, like, a lot of times we be trying so hard to get people to do certain things that are uniform with human beings. That's a human beings thing. That ain't real as it pertains to a relationship with God. A relationship with God comes from someone actually doing a number of things independent of anyone else so that they can have that connection with a living God, as I know it to be, as I've learned for it to be. Not just going someplace, sitting there for a couple hours, pretending to listen, clap, maybe listen to some music or sing a few songs, fellowship afterwards, shake hands with some people and go home and proceed about your regular life and don't pray to God until you get back to that place. That's not where we're headed. That's where we've been as it pertains to human beings and our structure of doing things. That needs to evolve. And I'd imagine my voice is going to be one of many, many ways the Lord is going to normalize the process of that evolution. It's time for us to have that relationship with God. We need to be talking to him just like I'm saying I talk to him. I shouldn't be just talking to a bunch of people who are saying, how is he doing that, and not trying to put that in practice. I'm telling you exactly how I do it. I'm telling you that I don't think there's too many people in this world that can't have that same relationship with God if they can find a way to connect with him regularly within their own lives. Maybe you don't have time to. Maybe you got a bunch of kids and a 15-hour job. Don't allow for you to do too much. But you doing your part, the faith of a mustard seed is what I've been told. You doing your part will make it so that the Lord will carve out more time for you. You're going to find more time because the Lord's going to create it for you. You're going to find a way to utilize the most out of the time that you have. Because the Lord, when you reach out to him, he can do amazing things with very little to nothing. He's not limited to man's timing. He's not limited to man's understanding. He'll shake the whole world up to make sure you have peace if that's what is required. Especially if you show him how much you want that relationship with him. You're going to look up and find out it don't require as much for you to find peace as maybe it does for me. You may be able to find a way to meditate and pray with the little time that you have, or with the presence of all them kids running around. But it's going to require for you to put in your effort, your bit of faith and practice consistently, repeatedly, before you actually have that relationship that allows for such things to manifest in your life. Practice that. Challenge yourself to work on making that consistent. Doing that as much as you feel you need to in order for you to start hearing the will of God and the voice of God in your heart. And if you need people, then find yourself at a place where people are. Because people can be very important, especially for extroverts and people who have the type of needs that many have. If you need to be around fellowship with others, that is important for you. Go fellowship with others. And make sure that you understand that it's going to be the practice of having a real relationship with God, independent of those individuals, that are going to allow for you to approach them and whatever spiritual energy they may be providing to your surroundings the right way. Because once you start getting around people, now you subject to their views on things, subjected to their suggestions into your heart about things. And that could be a good thing for a lot of times, for a lot of people, and it could be a bad thing for a lot of people. Finding yourself around individuals and collections of groups and stuff like that. As we mentioned many times on my channel, how I'm not a big fan of groups and collections of people too often. I prefer one-on-ones. But you may be the opposite. And so for you, I suggest a relationship with God independent of others, and then he will lead you toward where you best are for. In my opinion, I believe that's how he works. And so that's really what I want to say, man. Ready to go back in the room. Got a nice little walk here. I'm thankful that God has given me an understanding of how to approach him from within my circumstance. And I just encourage you guys to find your way as well with him in practice. Bdf 44. Thank you all for watching.